Okay, what's going on, guys? Captain Cody Davis back again. Welcome back to another episode of Tight Splice Charters here. And this one's probably going to go a little bit long, just forewarning. This one's probably going to be all over the place. And this is going to be another one of my rant videos, but this is a video that I feel like I've kind of been putting off making and something that needs to be made. And I feel like I'm making enough of these rant videos anymore that I'm thinking about possibly starting my own podcast. I know that sounds kind of cringy because everybody and their dog and their pet parakeet has a podcast anymore, but I really like them. I really like listening to them, especially if you have, a good host or some good guests. And I thought about just doing one like once a month, like a Lake Okeechobee Fishing Report podcast, have different tournament anglers come to the house or different guides and just talk about the lake or talk about fishing down here in Southeast Florida, South Florida in general, because I feel like there's always something to talk about in regards to Okeechobee. So if that's something, I don't know exactly how I do it. I'd probably just do it in video form, an hour long, and post it here on YouTube. So if that's something you guys would be interested in, leave a comment down below, and if I get enough comments, I might seriously consider it. But basically, the whole purpose of this video here, and so the Elite Series posted their schedule for 2023, and they're starting their season off down here on Lake Okeechobee, which I knew about a month ago, but it was put out in the public today, and I shared their schedule, and I made the Facebook post, which was kind of a, stir the pot post, but I said I can't wait for all the locals to shit talk Lake Okeechobee for the 2 months leading into the season, and talk about how bad it is, and then to watch one of the elite guys come here and catch 25 pounds a day and win the event with 100 pounds. And the reason I said that is because that's literally what happens like every year. And it might not be 100 pounds, right? But people catch them. And Kelly, my tournament partner, is one who pointed this out to me last year or 2 years ago. The lake was in a funk, people were struggling, and Kelly said, yeah, but it's going to get good in a couple weeks after Major League Fishing leaves. I didn't know what he meant, and I kind of asked about it, and he said, well, everyone sucks out here, and then these pros come, fish with an open mind, don't fish any past history, they fish, and then the top 10 catch what they catch, and then all of us locals go on their fish on all their spots, and then everyone's hooting and hollering about how great the lake is when they're fishing fish that they didn't even actually find. They relied on these pros to find for them. And that is exactly what happened. I'm not bad-mouthing anybody for it. I mean, I was in there in West Wall where the top 10 were. I was in that parking lot in Houseboat Cut where Skeet Reese was. I was flipping those buggies too. And I was in that line of people throwing chatterbaits on the west side. Okay. I was in Pelican throwing a Senko at those pads with everybody where Chris Lane was too. So I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. But it's literally what happened. So I posted this, and there's kind of a bunch of comments and stuff on there. And then I started to kind of defend my case. And then I just said, you know what, it's due for a video, because we're going to talk about real quick what Lake Okeechobee really is and what it's gone through and the real state of the lake, right? So we're now in 2022, okay, going into 2023 season. And we're talking about Lake Okeechobee, which no matter what you guys want to say or how you think of it, Lake Okeechobee is the Yankee Stadium of bass fishing. It's literally where they say people move here to come bass fishing and never leave. And that's the God's honest truth. I mean, people come down here, and the reason they're living down here is because they experienced one of those Lake Okeechobee days or one of those Lake Okeechobee weeks out there, and they just felt like it was heaven on earth. They don't leave, right? So there's a lot of people that like to shit talk Okeechobee, and that's all they do. And they want to come to weigh in and just talk about how bad the lake sucks, how bad the conditions are, how bad the shape of the lake is, this and that. And I feel like there's just a lot of very miserable. So we're talking about bass fishermen here, right? I am a bass guy. This is going to offend a lot of you, but 80% of you guys watching this have the world's biggest ego problem in all of fishing. I mean, I'm a bass guy. Okay, my family, born and raised bass fishing. I was born and raised a bass fisherman. My wife's family, they are some of the best bass fishermen on Lake Okeechobee. But there is no denying that bass fishermen have the worst ego problem in the entire world. I joke about it with Breezy all the time. I fish on these $3, $4, $5 million boats offshore, fish with these guys that have six figures just in rods and reels on the boat, could buy every marina and tackle shop around Lake Okeechobee and walk around like they are just a nobody. They are the nicest people, the friendliest people, humble, talk to you about their work ethic, talk to you about fishing, never one-up you. And then I come here and fish a $60 Bass Busters event. Everyone's walking around in jerseys. Everyone's busting the gas station door open with their honey buns and Red Bull, like, yeah, I'm going to catch them today. Everyone wants to be the shit, and they walk around like it. And I don't care if this is stirring the pot, because it's 10:30 the night of snook season opening. I should be heading east, and instead I'm making this video, so I'm kind of pissed off about it. But bass fishermen have an ego problem. So they do two things when they don't catch them, okay? They either A, don't show up to weigh-in, which is most of the people, or B, they come there, they grab a beer from the tiki bar, and they talk about how sucky Lake Okeechobee is. They did it at Rollins, the last Rollins. And I don't know if you know, I had 28 and a half pounds with Kelly and got fourth, and 37 pounds won it. And I think there were 20 bags over 20 pounds. Now, let's talk about what that is, right? First of all, that's in June. I didn't know any other lakes that were putting out those numbers, maybe some lakes in Texas, and I think maybe the Harris chain put out a good number that way. And either way, that's phenomenal fishing. Now, compared to what it used to be, no, right? Lake Okeechobee literally was the place to be back in 2010, 2011, 2012, right? I think when Brandon McMillan won in 2012, I think he had 106 pounds or something for 4 days. I don't even remember what it was, and he said he should have had a lot more than that, but he lost some true giants. So the bites were there to be had. But what people have to remember is those years were directly following after the lake essentially got a reset button clicked on it. We had a major drought, all right? I remember my dad taking me out of school to drive up here to see the drought, right? What a lot of you don't know is like Indian Prairie, Horse Island, all that, they had dump trucks and construction equipment out there scraping the bottom because the lake was so low. Pelican Bay was dry land, South Bay was dry land. It was low. It was an 8-foot lake. All these people now complain about a 12-foot lake. It was 8 foot. And what that did was, what a lot of people don't take into consideration, a lot of these areas that are now community holes and some of the most well-known areas on the lake today that we still fish on a daily basis, we're not even there prior to that drought. The famous hay fields that everybody loved so much down in South Bay that are no longer there. But the reason that was created, the only reason that was even around was because of this drought. So you had a couple things happen when the drought happened. The lake was at a record low. They did a lot of scraping, right? Cleaned the bottom up on the lake, which we desperately need again. There was no one fishing the lake. Everyone was paranoid to run the lake because you were going to wreck your boat and everything. And there's a select few people that are probably watching this that took advantage of that and did fish during those conditions. And it was some of the best fishing they've ever had because one, you had all the fish congregated, and two, there was no one on the lake for a good period of time. Once that water came back up, what did we have? We literally had a brand new lake. And I'm saying we, but I really wasn't even on the lake at this time. I was out. I tampered. I'd come every now and again, but I was more into the saltwater scene then. So basically we had a complete reset. The fish were unpressured and they had all new water. They had a lot more grass. Like I said, the hayfield, the community hole, whatever you want to call it, down south was not there prior to this. And then that got developed, which was just happened to be prime spawning environment, right? We had a big hard line on the lake, out on the edge of the lake to protect it from the north winds and the dirty water coming back there. And then you just had, I don't know, I'm going to just throw a number out there, 600 acres of prime, clean, hard bottom, clean water, needle grass, reed heads for these fish to stage in, you name it, it was there. It was literally the perfect storm. And the years following that, showed for it. The fish that everyone was catching were awesome, giant bass, so many fish over 10 pounds being caught, record-winning tournament bags. It was the place to be. But what happened after that? With that comes added pressure. So now on top of the local pressure that you had on the lake, you also had thousands, this is no exaggeration, thousands of people coming down here, traveling down here to take advantage of this fishery. And how do I know that? Because I'm a fishing guide on Lake Okeechobee. This is what I do. Now, fishing the lake that is so sucky and is horrible, I make a full-time living. I'm one of 100 full-time guides on this lake that fish almost every day. So people were still coming, and I get people on my boat every single year that tell me, I've been coming every year since 2010. I've been coming every year since 2000. And some of them will get guides. Some of them will stay for a month to fish an entire month. Some of them bring their own boats and stay for 2 or 3 months. Some of them move down here and live. So all of this fishing pressure started on this lake. Now, over time, that wears on the fish. It wears on the grass from the boat traffic running through the grass. We had high water. We haven't had a drought. That was, I'm not going to do the math, but a long time ago, okay? That was, I don't know. We're in 2022, 2008. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but it was a long time ago. We're due for a drought. A lot of our grass is gone. The spraying, all those factors, but this is what you got to remember. All those areas are gone. The hayfield is gone. What Tin House Cove used to be, gone. Buckhead Ridge, that whole area, which I favor a lot in the wintertime, is pretty much gone. Moonshine Bay looks nothing like it used to. Look at Ritta Island. There is no more Ritta Island. Ritta Island is gone. Pelican Bay, the backwaters of Pelican, all that hayfield that used to be back there around Dead River, all that, gone. So many of these great areas are literally no longer, and still 28 pounds gets you 4th place in the month of June, when the lake, it's arguably the worst month on the lake. All these people talking about how sucky the lake is right now, and I'm not using this to sound arrogant or to toot my own horn, but I've been one of the only boats putting in Clewiston or in Belglade the past 5 days I've been out there. And we've been catching 20 to 22 pounds and 30 to 40 fish on a 4-hour day every morning. And that's the God's honest truth. The fish are there. But everyone just assumes, oh, it's summertime, it's hot, it sucks, the lake sucks, and no one's fishing. But 22 pounds in August in 94-degree water is pretty damn good on a 4-hour day. Catching them on spooks and traps and clean water bait fish schooling everywhere. But so what I was getting at, all these areas are gone, and it's still taking this much weight. People are still catching fish, all right? So the lake may not look like it was, and it might not set up like it did, right? And the areas might not be there like they used to be, but isn't that impressive that it's still kicking out those numbers? Like Lake Toho. Lake Toho is a great lake, but the hydrilla is still there. The clean water is still there. The spawning areas are still there. So that lake should be putting out the numbers, because literally nothing has changed. When we've lost, let's just say it, 75% of our great fishing areas, and our lake is still kicking the numbers out. I say it all the time. The fish didn't just die. I think Mikey Kiso, who will tell you, is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best fishermen on the lake. He made a good point a couple years ago. The monkey box was absolutely popping off. I remember I fished a 2-day event in there with my wife. We had 24 pounds and we're in 23rd place the first day. And then we bombed the second day. But I think Gary Milicevic won it with 2 back-to-back 35-pound bags. And everyone was hooting and hollering about how great Lake Okeechobee's fishing, because everyone was in there catching them. And I remember Kiso saying, yeah, but it's pretty sad that, that's the only place for those fish in that general area to go in and spawn. So in a few years, you're going to see a slow year, because we essentially were losing a couple of years of spawners, because a lot of that fry isn't going to make it. There was nowhere for the fry to be protected and stuff due to water levels and things like that. So everything is against Lake Okeechobee, but it's still kicking out the fish. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. All of you guys are riding up to Lake Placid and graphing that place and beating the hell out of that after Mikey Balls put videos up. And all you're doing is just literally live scoping and graphing fish that are just out there on nothing, right? So you can complain about Okeechobee not having the grass and stuff, but the fish are still there. They didn't die. Yes, it is a little harder because our water gets dirty and stuff here, but the fish don't die. They don't disappear. They're there, right? You just got to catch them. And the other thing is the lake is totally setting up different now. So there's a lot of guys that want to complain that it sucks in the lake, but all they do is flip hyacinth mats and hydrilla. That's how they caught them back in 2011, 2012, 2013, and 14. That was how they won all their tournaments. That was how they caught all their big fish, was flipping hydrilla and flipping hyacinths. Then they go out there now, and they just do nothing but talk about how sucky the lake is, but it took 37 pounds to win, 20 20 pounds to get in the top 20, but everyone caught them casting a swim jig or throwing a Senko, and all you did was try to flip mats that were in 8 inches of water. You're not adapting. You're not adjusting to the times. The lake is setting up different. My opinion, like back in 2012 when Brandon won, him and Randall Tharp were going at it, Chad Pro, all them, they were flipping the big weight up in the monkey box. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not winning an event on Lake Okeechobee flipping the big weight right now. You're just not going to. I don't think you're going to this winter either, because the lake is setting up different. But that doesn't mean that it sucks. We are so spoiled down here. We have still arguably one of the greatest lakes in the country in our backyard. I get people every day on my boat. When I have a bad day, and you might catch 10 fish or something, and it's super slow, and I'm riding over the ramp just apologizing to them how bad it was. They go, man, we're lucky if we fish on my home lake in West Virginia. And these are guys that can fish now. They can fish. If we get 3 bites on a Saturday, that's a good day. Lake Okeechobee might not be what it was for a while, but it doesn't suck. Everyone keeps throwing how shitty the lake is, and that's sad that you're just gonna, I mean, these same people will talk about how bad the lake is online, and then the second that there's a Bass Busters event or a club tournament where the weights come in, they show up with their dusty boats and have to blow the dust off their bass tackle because, oh, I heard the lake was good again. You're cherry picking. The fish are there to be caught. I'm out there every single day. Yes, I do have to work extra hard to keep my customers on fish and for me to find them as well, but the fish are there. I never blame that the lake sucks. Look at yourself. You're an angler. You're supposed to try and be one of the best. And one of the comments in there was, yeah, well, these pros, that's all they do is fish on other people's time. They're here for 3 days. You live here. Go out. Sweat a little bit. Go out there when it's cold. Grind. Figure the lake out. The fish are there. Yes, the playing field's going to adjust, but it adjusts for everybody. So that's just some things to think about. I mean, it's kind of had to get that off my chest, I guess. But fishing pressure, high water, we're due for a drought. The lake's low right now. It's 12.5 foot. I pray that it keeps going low until October. Keep the lake lower. We're going to get a lot of our grass back. Hopefully the spawn will work a lot better. If the lake's too high, we're going to have muddy water rolling into these spawning areas. And fishing pressure. I mean, this lake has been beat. I talk to these people all the time from all over the country, and they're like, you guys have tournaments all year. You have fishing. I mean, we don't bass fish for 6 months out of the year. Our lakes don't see a boat. This lake gets fished 365 days a year. At any given day, there's over 100 boats on the lake. I'm out there every day. I see it on a Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. There were, I don't know, I fished Pelican Bay, I fished Long Point and the Tipperita, and I probably saw 7 or 8 boats on a Wednesday in the hottest day of the year. It's getting hit, and fishing pressure affects fisheries in different ways. Look what it did to Headwaters. 2 years ago, Headwaters was the place to be. 200 fish days every day. Everyone's catching them. It's the greatest place in the world. Roland Martin's living there guiding. JT Kenny's promoting it. Everyone's taking their private planes and flying down here to do shoots and fish Headwaters Lake. Now go out there. It's just like any other lake. It's been beat to hell, and now, yes, you can catch fish. The fish are there to be caught, but you have to work for it, and that's what's happening on Lake Okeechobee, and people, I feel like, are afraid to do it. Don't give Lake Okeechobee a bad name just because you're struggling. Look at the big picture. There's plenty of days where I come in. I'm a full-time guy on Lake Okeechobee, and I get my teeth kicked in by these guys every tournament. Very rarely am I even in the top 10 anymore, right? And I don't claim to be the best angler on the lake because I'm far from it. But I never come in zeroing or having 8 pounds in an event and say, man, the lake sucks. Because I sit back and I look at that leaderboard and I say, this person, Kale and Brad, caught 29. Justin Morgan caught 27. Kiso caught 24, Medlock had 26, Jared McMillan and Duran had 27. The fish are there. I have to adjust. I have to be better. And I feel like not enough people do that. The people that are at negative and don't talk shit about the lake and just go out there and do it are the people on top, if you haven't noticed, because the playing field's the same for everybody. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm out there every day. I see the potential the lake has. I see the fish that are there. My customers are catching fish. And if we weren't, they wouldn't continue to come back, and I wouldn't have the repeat business that I do. So obviously the lake does not suck that bad. So that's my 20-minute rant. A lot of you probably aren't listening, but we'll just kind of jump into it. The elites, I'm looking forward to it. I really, truly hope that the lake has a 100-pound tournament and shows out. And I hope that, you know, some of these guys, they really just crack them and really catch them and show the potential that this lake has and that, you know, it still is. I'm not going to make picks on what I think happens because it's all going to depend on, you know, on the weather. Mark Shepard, a good buddy of mine, great guy on Okeechobee, left a comment on my Facebook thing, you know, that these guys, they cherry pick. They do come the best month traditionally on the best moon. They do their research. They don't just show up to Lake Okeechobee. Bassmasters puts the tournament on the lake at the best possible time. So yes, that is taking into consideration. They probably are going to smash them, but literally getting texts about my Facebook status right now. But if it's cold, it might not be as great, but if these guys show up here on a 13.5 to 14-foot lake on a warming trend, I think we'll see 100 pounds. But I'll be touching base on the elites coming here more and more throughout on the channel when we get closer to time. I don't know what time it is. I think it's like 11 o'clock. I got to load up the stuff. I'm going snook fishing on opening night like an idiot. I'm going to go fight with the Googans. But I just don't have time to go anymore, and Breezy gave me the green light to go. She's got the baby. So I'm going to go meet some buddies and go throw some jigs and some swim baits and maybe bring home a snook dinner. Appreciate you guys watching. The lake desperately needs a drought. It does. I'd love to see a 7-foot lake next year. I'd love to see to where nobody can get out there and fish it for a couple of months, because that's what it needs, and it would do this lake a load of good. The spraying sucks, but they could say stop the spraying, but high water is going to do more damage than spraying does. Low water is what we need. And any of the old school guys will tell you the same thing. I'm going snook fishing. I'll see you guys on the next one.